Hello, people of the internet, and welcome back. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about Fallout 4's new update that came out, the anniversary update, because we all are 100 years old. Yay. Anyway, if you enjoy the content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. This is a little bit different to our standard comment. This is a less scripted, more jotted down notes video where I'm just glancing off at my laptop off to the side and talking to you guys directly, the audience. If you enjoy this type of content and want more, be sure to let me know in the comment section below. To all of you out there who play Fallout 4 and remember when the previous update, the next gen update, came out for Fallout 4, you would remember that all of the mods broke back then as well. This is because the script extender, which is required for a large number of mods, was unfortunately broken because they edited a lot of files that file updates. So when they released the update, it broke all the content. But the reason why this update was needed was because they needed to keep working on newer platforms, like the new Xbox series that came out and PlayStation series that came out. And it did add a fairly large amount of content with the Enclave stuff. I think this update was a relatively good one, although I feel like it could have been handled a little bit better. We'll get into that and how we should update like these games in the future moving forward. But for right now, let's just talk about the newest update and talk about why it really kind of was underwhelming. The most recent update for the Anniversary Edition didn't really add a lot of content for the average player unless you purchased the Anniversary Edition. The only real content you actually got was the NCR armor and that pistol. Now, personally, I have not played this update, but I've seen a lot of content about it, and with that being the core main things added in the update, I feel like the update was a little underwhelming in that sense. A lot of content was added to the Creation Club as a whole, but a lot of that content is paid content where you're not really getting your hands on it unless you spend another $100 on the game, which, for me, who plays with a lot of these PC mods that already exist for free, it's a little bit unnecessary, it feels like it. Another major issue that happened previously was, especially on the consoles, there was a lot of issues with the update, breaking previous textures, making it so you could completely not play older saves. It just totally broke that. I am not a console player, so I have no idea how this new update has affected the console versions yet. I haven't seen anything on that recently. But I will say, I'm guessing it's probably going to be a similar situation where a lot of content is just kind of breaking your game. Now, a lot of the mods that are on consoles generally will not be broken, but the update will break the way they work, and a lot of the mods might not work because of that. Because on console, the mods don't require the script extender, but a little bit more goes into that. I don't exactly know all the details behind what Bethesda Sorcery they did to make that work. I don't mean this to be a negative video about the mod makers who developed the new content for Fallout 4. For the Creation Club. A lot of that content was well made. The NCR gear looks really nice. It seems really customizable, along with the gun that comes along with it. I'm more interested in the armor than the gun, but I think it's nice to see a game that has very few new guns getting at like in it, actually having a few unique weapons like that, as well as it just simply being a little bit more of a unique animations. A lot of the older guns used the same animations and it was very repetitive. If you know Once you notice it, you're never gonna unnotice the same animations being played for every gun, like the combat rifle, sharing animations across the board with a lot of guns. So it's nice to see them doing at least something to add that little bit of gameplay spice. Although I wish that it would be a little bit easier for the average player to get their hands on, especially on content or on console where a lot of this content isn't necessarily like available on the actual mods like location for the console. Whenever I download mods for Fallout 4 on the PC, you go to Nexus Mods and you get all your mods there, or you get it from different websites similar to that. But generally speaking, pretty much anything on the actual Atom Shop store is generally going to be available somewhere out there on the mod pages. So realistically speaking, there's not a whole lot I've seen that's really all that interested in demands you buy the creation kit version. Now, updating Fallout 4 is a necessity. All games, when new platforms come out, will need some form of update to make them work on those platforms. It's inevitable that a lot of this stuff is going to have to get updates over the years. So, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a little bit of time and talk about what exactly we can do as a community and what Bethesda themselves should do moving forward. I believe if a lot of us talk together and say, hey, Bethesda, we want you to do this, give us access to these versions, and do this to allow us to be able to keep our mods, I think we would eventually be able to get them to cave and at least let us get a little bit of air. But before that, I'd like to talk about what I think would be a few good ideas to start with. I feel like a major thing for a lot of PC gamers, especially me included, if you want to play the older Fallout 4 versions, you have to go through a lot of a difficulty getting a different file, using it to run so you can download the older Fallout 4 versions, and especially when Fallout 4's next gen update first came out, and you had to do all that with console commands by hand in the Steam console, it was really easy to mess up. And for a lot of fresh new modders, it was really, really difficult. Mods came out that let you do a lot of this stuff a lot easier. There was a mod that I know all you had to do was just run the game or run the mod, and it would do all of it for you. All you had to do was just run it, and you got all the files you need, and it would just update your game. But I feel like since Fallout is one of those games that is seen as such a heavily modded game that has so many mods playing a key role in the game's success and the game as a whole, for example, with Fallout 4, the modding community basically made that game for a lot of people. When you go online, you see mod lists, conversations for miles. See videos, 10 top 10 videos talking about Fallout 4 mods, what mod you need, what mods you should play with, what mods are cringy or silly or funny. And so I feel like to keep that, the developers need to sort of reach their hand out a little bit. And I think a great way to do this would be as well making it so that when they do work on a newer update, the people who work over at the script extender to make that work, maybe give them a version of it so they can get it at least somewhat ready for when you do the update. It might not always be perfect and it might still take a couple more days, but at the very least, the update for the script extender is somewhat progressing. Now, from what I understand, they did do a very similar thing to this with the most recent update, and I think that was a great thing to do. A lot of people who play mods will be very happy when their mods update fairly quickly, especially with the new Fallout TV show series coming at the end of or at the beginning of next month at the 17th. It really does make it so that when you're seeing the TV show, you could be able to play the games and watch the games. Now, I'd like to turn my attention a little bit more towards the consoles for this. I think that a lot of these functions being added to console would be really nice, although I will say I can understand it being a lot more difficult to make it so that console players can choose what version of the game they're running on. I think a lot of that is a little bit more understandable with why they can't get that working. I do understand that the most recent thing they've been working on, or at least have been alluding to working on, is making it so you can have more mods on the console. Previously, there was a limit on how many mods you can actually have downloaded based on the file size. There was just a hard limit on how many files you could have. So, with them potentially reworking that and adding more files and more space for you to download mods, I think that would be a great help for a lot of console players getting into modding. I know my first Fallout modding experience was Fallout 4 on the Xbox back in 2015, 2016, when the mods start to really get into the mainstream on the console side of things. I think the modded mods that are added in by the developers, should be a lot more polished than they currently are. Some of the mods on the Atom Shop are unfortunately somewhat broken. A lot of the content in them, it works, but it can be glitchy. It's not exactly always well. It can cause issues. It can conflict with stuff. And I feel like when you're a developer and you sell mods, I'm not talking about the mod developers. I'm talking about the company itself, Bethesda. when you're selling these mods, marketing them as mini DLCs, there should be a level of polish that they should at the very least all work together, and there shouldn't be any issues with that. Anyway, that's all I got to say for today. Let me know if you want to see more of this unscripted content. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And have a good day. I have another video coming out soon, hopefully. If you want to know about it, you're going to have to subscribe to see it. It's pretty good. Take care.